Hello there, in this video we're going to be talking about how much polygons should we invest on different assets for Android. This is a question asked by Mahiral Nahian, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, on my YouTube channel. So let's dive into it. So in Android, it's not that complicated to know which asset to invest more polygon in it, because the first thing that you have to pay attention to is that it doesn't matter how high the poly count is in model rendering, including OpenGL. It really doesn't matter that much. The only thing that matters is that if poly count is high, the size is higher and the RAM usage is higher. So for example, if you're working on Android, if your target device has something like 2 gigabytes of RAM, it means that they will have 500 megabytes of RAM free for your game. So you have to do everything inside the game with only 500 megabytes of RAM. So poly counts included. So if you have 10 meshes in your game and they have like 60k poly count, it's not much at all. Even in a mobile game, if you have 60k of poly count, it means roughly around 10 megabytes. And 10, if you have 10 meshes, 10 by 10 is 100 megabytes only for meshes. If you have textures, you have all the assets, you have shader caches, you have light map build, you have a lot that you need the RAM to process, to at least to store all the information in it. So that's the first thing that you have to pay attention. In my case, in my game, let me show you what I've done. For example, my landscape, I've converted it to a static mesh. It's got 3,573 triangles, and I use the reduction settings under the LOD 0, and it's only 5% of the whole mesh. So the whole mesh was like 71,000. It's not much at all. Even with really old devices, you have the option to have around 1 million triangles, less than that, 800,000 triangles in the game inside the scene being rendered in with the old GPUs, and that's totally fine. With newer devices, you're pretty much unlimited. The only thing that limits you is the RAM usage and size of it. So I'm going to continue with 5. And if you right click on it, you have an option called size map, and sometimes it works, sometimes it's different. So it means that the main mesh is 50 megabytes. It's not, it's a lot. Memory size right now, if you select memory size, it shows you how much it will use from the memory right now, but this size is not correct. So memory size is like 3 megabyte will roughly be what you'll see in the disk size as well. This is the main size, but we use the reduction setting, so it's not that, it's just wrong right now. So 3 megabytes with 3,573, you have to use 3 megabytes of RAM and package size. You're working on Android, and on an Android game, it will have how big a game can be. If it's more than 200 megabytes, if it's more than 500 megabytes, no one will download it at first. You have to do a lot of advertisements. You have to tell people that the game's worth it. It's worth the 500 megabytes of download. They don't just download it easily, because there's just a million games with less than 100 megabytes that you can just go ahead and download. So if you want to stay in the competition, you have to go with, this is one of the tools that you can use. Just reduce the meshes. It's not that hard, just reduce it, and the collision will be, if you're using the complex collision, the collision will be simpler as well, so that's less CPU usage as well. This is for the landscape. So for example, if I'm using, I've merged everything all together, and this is a little bit big. So this is 22,000, but it's got like lots of meshes in it, and the thing with this is that wherever you look, it's always loaded in the memory. So I don't know, for me it's a good thing in this scene because I couldn't really use a lot of instancing. It will just be a lot of CPU usage, which I don't really have in Android. But for you, maybe that's a bad thing. Well, if it's a good thing for you, then I'm using like 22,000, and that's totally fine. I can stay with that, and it's got 71 megabytes, which is a lot. Yeah, the initial size was 458 megabytes, but right now it's 71. And if you've in the project settings, in the packaging, you have an option in the advanced section to create compressed cooked packages. So it means that where was it? So it means that if you have 71 megabytes, it's gonna be divided by 2, something like 35, 36. And that's it. So I'd say normally for an asset like this, for an asset that's not too complicated, something like under 1,000 would be really good if you can do that. But normally 3,000 to 5,000 is gonna be fine. If you have to go above 50K, that's totally fine. You have no problem rendering it. The only problem you'll face is because of its size. The size will be loading into the RAM. Loading it by CPU will cost a little bit more. So you may experience a little bit of shader compilation error, lag, hitching, in other words. Package size will be a lot higher. So my advice is that reduce the triangle count just to the maximum amount you can do. For example, in this case, for me, like I've merged all of these assets together, and it's got 9,000. So it's set at 100 triangles. So I'm going to be selecting 10, and it looks really bad. I don't want that. I don't want my game to look bad. So look is really important. 50. Well, I can work with that, but there are some texture errors. No, not texture errors, mesh errors. So 50 is not going to work for me as well. 70 is not going to work either. So I have to go ahead with 100 or 90. 90 will work just fine as well. Yeah, 90 is going to work. So just try and see which one works for you. For example, this one was just really good. What about this? Let's see if we can change a little bit in this. So this is 90, probably 90 was the best value I could come up with. 20 doesn't look good. 50, so 90 is the value I eventually came up with, and this is how you're gonna achieve a great result, a greater look for your game, and a more reduced package size and memory usage, which at the end all of it matter really. So everything is important. I mean, I tried to explain everything. It's not complicated to explain. This is just a lot of aspects that you have to look into the subject. Memory usage is really important, but look of the game is important as well. Performance is important. Sometimes you have to merge assets, and merging assets will just increase the triangle count, will just increase the package size, but sometimes you have no other choice because there's just a lot of assets that CPU is always so busy just trying to transfer everything to GPU and memory, which doesn't work usually. So you have to merge assets and then reduce the triangles. I wish I could help and answer this question, and I wish you a good day. Bye.